Welcome to Asiatique. I'm your host, Dr. Raymond. As the Palestinian-Israeli conflict in Gaza stretches into its 10th month, there was a bid for peace and unity from Beijing this week. Under China's mediation, senior representatives from 14 Palestinian factions signed the Beijing Declaration on ending division and strengthening Palestinian national unity. As witnessed by the Chinese friends, once bitter rival among the Palestinians, notably Hamas and Fatah, have decided to bury the hatches and join forces. They're now setting their sights on establishing an independent state of Palestine with Jerusalem as the capital, based on relevant United Nations resolutions, and ensuring the integrity of Palestinian territory, including the West Bank, Jerusalem, and Gaza. For media like the Straits Times, CNN, BBC, etc., all say they somehow have doubts, or some even have serious doubts about the deal's practical implications for the fighting in Gaza or the broader power balance in the Middle East. So, is it going to work or not? This week, we'll find out. According to this new Beijing Declaration, the Palestinian factions have agreed to establish an interim national reconciliation government, carry out reconstruction in Gaza, and prepare and hold a general election as soon as possible in keeping with the adopted election laws. During the reconciliation talks, Mustafa Bugatti, Secretary-General of the Palestinian National Initiative, was asked why different factions could resolve the differences in Beijing. And after thinking for a while, he replied, "Because China is decent and honest and wants to help us without interfering in our internal affairs, and to support our struggle by enhancing Palestinian unity and enabling Palestinians to achieve what they deserve, which is their freedom, their independence, their rights to sovereignty." According to Chinese state media, Bugatti's remarks offered a compelling elucidation of China's sincerity and continual progress in assisting the Middle East in achieving peace. Now, you see, the Western media definitely won't agree and couldn't agree. Now, that's because the East and the West, have very different views on how international order should be maintained. Now, on the side of the West, or say, the USA, they support what is known as rule-based international order. Well, the name says it all. It's basically everybody plays by the same set of rules. The same set of rules as set by the United States of America, and if you like the American way, you would call it fair. But if you don't, you can hardly agree with it because in a way it messes with your country, if not your politics as well. Now, the Eastern way, somehow like the non-intervention approach, is what China is doing right now. If you check what China did last year when she pulled together Iran and Saudi Arabia, this was the underlying rationale in which it's not the rules, but the respect they pay towards one another. The Saudis liked it, the Iranians liked it, because China wasn't meddling into their internal affairs. But of course, if you looked at it the American way, it's not just that the rules are not there, but there are actually no rules to observe. And everything is like ad hoc. And that's why the United States was calling this a chaotic way of maintaining peace. And there are just no rules. And there are no rules. In a collectivist society, you observe the culture, you mind the taboos in exchange for protection. Of course, using your unquestioned loyalty. But this is not what the individualistic society could understand. If you look at John Galton's work, who is a renowned critical peace study scholar from Norway, he wrote in his book, published in 1967, titled Theories of Peace. Well, he talked about two types of peace, negative and positive peace. Now, the negative type of peace involves curbing or containing violence already taking place. However, negative peace is limited. It does not remove the reasons why conflict started. Now, for that, positive peace is actually needed. Now, positive peace seeks to resolve the root causes of conflict and realize reconciliation in society. Third parties may play a greater role and invest in security sector provision, develop projects for marginalized and discriminated groups, and support transitional justice measures. It somehow looks like the United States is practicing negative peace without much concern about positive peace, while China is practicing positive peace and not doing the negative part of it, and hence trying to resolve the root cause of the conflict and realize reconciliation in societies. Now, Iranians, Saudi Arabians, and now even Palestinians are collectivists, and hence they prefer someone helping them out and do positive peace while maintaining neutrality. Now, the United States, on the other hand, has been trying to curb and contain violence using violence, which is, of course, the military actions, right? So, you see, it may not be that okay, put it this way, let's do it fair. It may not be that the United States of America doesn't really want peace, but the way they think they look for peace is through the military power, which, in the eyes of these 14 Palestinian factions, is not going to work. And on the other hand, China's non-interventionist approach is really attractive to Middle Eastern countries, which view their increasingly close ties with Beijing as a means of diversification and not convergence, according to the American approach. Now, China's non-interventionist principles are culturally in line with Middle Eastern countries' desire for greater autonomy in their factions or countries and flexibility in their foreign relations. The non-interventionism approach from China is exactly what these factions wanted. And that's why it should be the most, in my opinion, the most practical solution that really is practicable. So you might ask, is China not benefited as a result of this? In terms of economy, geopolitics, diplomatic goals, strategies? Now, you must have missed something. Yes, of course. Now, indeed, there are a lot of impact of the Israel-Hamas war on China's national interests as well. Say, for example, you have the economic interests. China has significant interests in the economic domain, including trade, investment, and energy. And everybody knows that the Middle East supplies more than half of China's oil needs. And in return, China is the largest buyer of oil from the Middle East and North Africa. So the country has also increased its trade with the region and has become a major trading partner with countries such as Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates. Now, and also when it comes to geopolitical and strategic considerations, China's growing engagement in the Middle East is reshaping the geopolitical landscape in the region. China has signed strategic partnerships and memoranda of understanding for its economic activities with most Middle Eastern countries. And moreover, China has vested interest in maintaining peace and stability in the Middle East due to its dependence on oil imports from the region, of course. China has established strategic partnerships with many countries in the Middle East, including Egypt, Algeria, Turkey, United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, and various others. And also diplomatic goals as well. When China seeks to develop friendly relations with countries in the Middle East, China also seeks to, win the trust and friendship of the Arab and the third world countries and break away from the isolation imposed by the West. But it's more than these. The Palestinian question has always been the core issue in the Middle East, and achieving internal reconciliation within Palestine is an important step towards resolving issue and achieving peace and stability in the region, and also changing the way how international relations is played. Now, that is the most important thing. The United States has been advocating its rule-based concepts, where everything has to fall into place according to, preset rules. Rules that are preset by the Americans. But now, China has it the other way around. Non-interventionism. China respects the autonomy, independence, and sovereignty of these countries, and of course, they've been longing for it. And indeed, China has long been committed to promoting reconciliation within Palestine, a goal shared by other Arab nations, including Egypt and Jordan. However, efforts have been, have previously been stalled. Not stalled, but been stalled. You know what I mean. Now, due to an unfavorable international environment, particularly, interference from the United States. Yes, that's the American rule-based environment. Using the old approach, the recent round of conflicts in Gaza has highlighted for Palestinians the detrimental impact of internal divisions on their goal of establishing a state. There is a growing recognition that a unified voice will amplify their cause for justice, and only by standing together can they advance the cause for national liberation. Now, this has spurred a renewed desire for reconciliation among Palestinians' factions. But using China's non-interventionism approach, the international community has increasingly recognized that the establishment of a Palestinian state is the key to resolve the Palestinian question. Now, previously proved successful in China's mediation between Saudi Arabia and Iran, the world and the Palestinian leaders in particular are hopeful, if not outright certain, that China will play a significant role in addressing the thorny issue. The most urgent task now is to achieve a comprehensive, lasting, and sustainable ceasefire in the Gaza Strip as soon as possible and ensure access to humanitarian aid and rescue on the ground. China, to this end, has engaged in close communication and coordination with relevant parties since the outbreak of recent hostilities. China has also provided a significant amount of humanitarian aid through various channels. It has also actively facilitated the United Nations Security Council's adoption of a resolution calling for the ceasefire in Gaza. By the way, these were seldom reported in the Western media. There is simply a hegemony behind that controls all these. In a position paper from China on resolving the Palestinian-Israeli conflict released just last November, China calls for Palestine's full membership in the UN and a more authoritative and effective international peace conference to work out a timetable and roadmap for the two-state solution. You can see that with the non-interventionism approach, China's drive for a comprehensive, just and lasting resolution to the Palestinian-Israeli conflict stems not from self-serving geopolitical motives, but from a profound empathy for the Palestinian people as a friendly country in the Middle East and an earnest aspiration for peace and prosperity in the region and beyond. After all, a hegemony only exists when one could win the consent of the others. If one day, people around the world realize that there can be true positive peace and not just fragmented negative peace maintained by the use of violence and force, that hegemony will fall. And by then, we will truly have an international society where people or nations respect one another.
Before you leave,
until then,
please be sure to
ciao.
Before you leave, please be sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and share this with your friends. See you in the next episode.